everybody. Welcome to Thrive, Inner Resilience for Outer Growth. And today I'm having a discussion with my good friend and colleague, Jennifer Ransaw Smith. So Jennifer is a personal brand strategist with a really fascinating background. So she started out in the bigger world of branding and advertising and became an entrepreneur helping primarily women really get recognized for their skills. And as a personal brand strategist, she really helps her clients dig into who they are, the expertise that they have, and to create a personal brand so that other people don't do it for you. You're doing it proactively for yourself. Jennifer and I have known each other for 10 years now. We were oohing and eyeing about this beforehand. So we met when Jennifer was pregnant with baby number 3, who's now 10. So like many of us, Jennifer works from home, has the kids, the husband, there's a lot going on. So today we're gonna focus in on personal brand strategy. What is that? What does that mean? We're going to talk about the connection to mindset, and we're going to touch on resilience too. So Jennifer, welcome. I'm super glad that you're here today.
Marcy Stahl, thank you for having me. It blows my mind because when you said 10 years and you reminded me of that, like you have a better memory of my children and when they were born than I do.
It was a memorable occasion when we first met. And one of the fun facts that I still recall is you were speaking at a women's networking event and you were so passionate about this. I think you had a 20-minute time limit, but you had 40 slides. And that just speaks to like the enthusiasm and passion and like quantity of ideas that you have. So you were just like determined to give us everything you possibly could.
That is not a lie. I cannot even remember it, but that straight up sounds like me. So yeah.
yeah, that was great. That was great. Well, I'd love for you to start up with a bit of your own journey around kind of the connection between how one aspect of what helps us be seen and be recognized is our own set of beliefs about ourselves. So it's our self-worth, our sense of our own value, our self-love versus, our inner critic or limiting beliefs. So I'd love for you to share a bit of your journey with that.
Absolutely. So thank you. I've been in business for 13 years now. And originally, started and I was working with primarily small businesses. And a few years in, and women-owned businesses primarily, but a few years in, I realized that my dream was to work with power players, senior level executives in large companies or people who are really decision makers who can kind of move the needle at another level. And I was finding myself stuck. I had spent my career, like you said, in advertising. I had traditional background. I'm from Los Angeles. I relocated to the East Coast to work in advertising, went to New York, wrote commercials for big brands like Burger King, AT&T, Kool-Aid commercials. And then I went to Newsweek where I was a publicist for a TV show. So I had the traditional advertising, marketing, and eventually went to a Georgetown branding firm. So I found myself stuck as far as the kind of clientele that I wanted to reach. And one day I was walking by my desk and, well, let me take a step back. I found myself stuck, and what I started realizing was I would never attract what I wasn't. And I had certain thoughts, I had certain beliefs, I had certain situations that would happen, and I still was replaying and still do, the whole, am I good enough, all of this stuff. And so I was like, it just like gobsmacked me, Jennifer, you're never going to attract, your dream is to be sitting on someone's Gulfstream going to Davos as their brand strategist, and that's not who you're attracting. I was attracting myself. Nothing wrong with myself, but that wasn't what my ideal, it was a bunch of small businesses. And so what I realized was I needed to dial inward. and I call it internal branding, the way that you see yourself. And so I spent the next year, there was a book someone introduced me to called The Miracle Morning. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, yes. And I remember when that came into your life, that
Yes.
was life changing.
Because
Yes.
I became religious about it. I literally would get up every single morning, and I was, when I say intentional about elevating the way that I saw myself, it was straight up like number one priority. I mean, as far as spending time, what kind of affirmations were I saying? How was I visualizing? What was I doing? And all of a sudden, probably a year later, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, I cannot tell you, I walked by my desk one day and I looked down, and every single business card, every single person who had reached out was like calling up, were literally at the level that I was interested in. And what I have come to realize, and we have since actually trademarked the term personal elevation and moved from just a traditional personal branding firm to elevation, because it is so much more. You can give everyone the strategy, the marketing, the tips, the website, the logos, the brand colors, the philosophy, the core values. But if you're working with someone and they don't internalize, they don't believe it, like I like to say, the world will never see you higher than you see yourself. And so it really is the first step when you're talking about what it takes to get out there and really elevate your visibility, your credibility, your impact, your influence. Everything starts with who you see when you look in the mirror.
This is so profound. If we just like stopped the interview right there and I just put this on a loop, like that would be it. That's amazing. And I know that you and I both know a ton of really talented women, I mean, including ourselves at times, who have not fully internalized that. And it's hard looking at people that you know are meant for more and seeing that they're not there yet. And it's so internal. So thank you.
It's internal, and it's interesting because I did not realize that I had a self-worth issue. Because I have a very big personality. I always have. Like I came out the womb and they were like, oh my God, seriously. And so I've given birth to kids who came out the womb and you're like, oh my God, dial it down. So I did not realize that until one day I was on a phone call with someone who was a coach of mine who had a book on self-worth, and she was talking about all the areas where she lacked in that and how she spent a lifetime. And it wasn't until she was walking through that I was like, oh my God, I'm the poster child. Like, did not realize it. I did not realize I could have a big magnetic personality, but not ask for what I wanted. I did not realize that I could be gregarious and, oh my God, I know everything, or I can straight up, help you with my eyes closed, but I would take less than I was worth. So like it was all these little tiny things that I never even associated with self-worth that, I would fold, or I would, acquiesce, or all kinds of things, to make myself, instead of standing in my truth and my value and saying, this is who I am, this is what I demand of the world, this is what I demand of situations. And it was like all of a sudden hearing someone else talk about it, and I was like, oh my God, if they had a definition in the dictionary, Jennifer Ransaw Smith's face would be sitting right here. Like, this is crazy. And so that's when I started doing a lot of work around there, and I started realizing that I straight up was not alone. A lot of my clients deal with that. I mean, you have so many people who are double Ivy League degree and still like having that battle. And so the reality is, when you were talking about it's difficult, I'm 50 years old, and it's a lifetime journey to remind yourself who you are, to, that whole new level, new devil, to continuously recognize that there are certain things that are never just going to come easy, and you have to do the work and train and recognize that it's worth it, because when you dial back, you're holding back the greatness that you have to offer the world. And most of the time when you're dialed back, the reason you're dialed back is because of you. It's not usually other people. It's because of, I'm not ready. I need another certification. I need to polish this off. If I put this out, I might get criticized. Let me wait because I could do this better, even though it's been the 15th time. I had a client who called me and I had her do something on video. And she said, oh my God, Jennifer, if you saw how many videos, it took me like 8 videos to, get it right. And I said, well, girl, then you're good. Because sometimes it takes me like 30 and you're all like, oh my God, you're killing it. You have no idea that I was like, take 24. That's just how it is, because we always show people what we want them to see and you don't see what's behind screen. So the reality is self-worth to me is the cornerstone for strong personal branding.
I love this. Self-worth is where it all starts. And I totally, I see something that you said earlier over and over in business coaching too, that the best marketing strategy in the world is not going to work if it's not in alignment with kind of your inner sense of value and your own confidence in what you're offering. So what I have so learned on my own journey is that my inner and outer growth have to go together. And I was a person who, came up in the computer science field, and I worked in defense. So it was like all men, all technology, all the time. And all the focus was really on outer actions. And then when I started as a business coach, just me alone in my home office, then I was like, ooh, it's my inner stuff that's getting in my way right now. It's not my knowledge base. So yes, these ideas that we're discussing, I think, are super relevant. So from there, let's transition a bit into resilience, because one thing I see that is so fascinating is there are people, even in the same family. So you'd think, oh, they're raised under the same conditions. Why do they have such different results? One person can be really so brought down by the conditions in their life, and they just don't bounce back. Whereas somebody else raised in that same family or, having really difficult life circumstances is the one who bounces back. Mm-hmm. And to me, that really feels like resilience, which I think fits with your theme of new level, new devil. Like, it's not like you put in the good work and then you're like, yay, got that done. I'm finished. No, it's ongoing, which to me, I think speaks to resilience. But I'd love to hear a little bit of your take on resilience and what that looks like for entrepreneurs or for you more personally.
So it's so funny because you gave that example of 3 people. I could not have 3 more different children that if they were separate, you would be like, do you guys both know Fred and Jennifer? Oh my God. And that has been one of the biggest lessons, because just as a parent, and this also pivots to business owners, but I have to raise, love, operate them with them different. The operation manual for each of them is, they're not even remotely attached, completely not remotely attached.
Yeah. Yeah.
My expectation is completely different because of just, the way that they're wired. And so it's the same thing for individuals. And what I will say is resilience has a completely different meaning right now with the pandemic than it did. We had this conversation on December 31st. And for some people, resilience means getting up and having a good day, And I think that as a business owner, what starts to happen is, especially in a very digital world, you can end up mentally collapsing yourself and having a lot of issues if you're not completely dialed into how you're wired, what you need, and what it's going to take you to sustain you. Because there are certain people where this is the moment where it's get up, go, run, do this, do that. And there's certain people at the end of the day, if they were to do that, they would be on a bridge about to jump over. And they simply, like, I've had conversations with people and they're like, I'm lonely as heck and I just need a hug. I cannot physically touch people. And I think that a long time ago, certain things could be dismissed. I think right now, this is a very, very, very heavy moment. And so it is looking at you. And I think what this moment is teaching us is to truly run your own race, truly say, what does that need? What do I need? Because we are in a society where it's so easy to compare. I mean, you're like, oh my God, I need to launch this. Do I have a new program? 25 things are just hitting my feed, and I feel like I'm not doing anything because physically I don't feel like getting up. And I was telling a girlfriend this morning, I have several people in my life, in my really, really, really inner circle that are doctor therapists. And one of them I called this morning and I said, she was like, is everything okay? It's 8 o'clock. And my best friend from high school. And I said, girl, like on paper, everything is fine. Like I'm completely healthy. My husband, my kids were completely fine. No one's getting on each other's nerves. Everything is fine, but I'm not fine. Like I physically feel I'm walking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I am not fine. Like, this is Groundhog Day, 5th month. It's not changing for the next year. We're all home college students. I mean, and I'm like, this is so, you turn on the TV, everything is heavy. And it's hard to dial down heaviness and be like, okay, game on, I'm about to do this, And so what I have literally learned to do, where someone said, is recognize as a business owner, some days my day is just to maintain, let me service the clients that I need to service. And I'm about to go curl up and get under a blanket and chill, play Uno, And so I think that this moment calls resilience, calls for us to, have you ever heard of Sean Stevenson? He's a famous motivational speaker. I think he's in a wheelchair. He's really, 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 really short, and he was born with every kind of ailment, and he's like this most amazing guy. And this is from 2013 when I wrote this down. Sean Stevenson, I think I found him through Success Magazine, called, he has this list called When Life Works list. What are the 10 or 20 things that when you look back, when your life was working at the highest level that you were doing? It could have been like when life was working, I was doing a green smoothie, I was meditating in the morning, I was doing this, I was doing that, all of these things. And so it reminded me of that, because what I have been doing is not that, And I realized this morning I was, even in preparation for this call and having a conversation with my girlfriend, I realized that there were a couple things that I used to do that I'm not doing right now that probably have to do with why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, And so I think that it is very difficult to take your business to the next level, to take your family to the next level, when you can't dial in and secure and lay the foundation and make sure that you're good. And so right now, my foundation, I've told the fam, I'm like, Mom is struggling. They're like, we're all struggling, And we're like, oh, it's I know. So, so that's exactly where I am. And so what I would say, my advice is to honor what it is that you feel, how you feel, and don't feel pressure to, birth 25 books during this time. And it's so interesting because when I first started the whole pandemic, I was like, okay, we have to do all of these things and all of these things have to be checked off, and just not realizing how heavy certain things can feel and how they can land. And we need to honor that. And so I will say that the most resilient thing that I have done consistently through this pandemic is my spiritual hour is out the box. Literally, I have every journal, I am writing, I'm meditating. I made up a little area in the backyard and I'm out there at the crack of dawn. I mean, so I have really tried to tap in at a whole nother level, but that's pretty much been the most consistent thing that I have done. And there are days that I, honestly, when it comes to business, business is great and I'm getting calls, but I'm feeling so heavy about everything else that's going on.
Yeah. So I think your example points out something that I find really easy to forget, which is my most successful life is one that's built on a number of small practices.
Mm-hmm.
And those small practices are really easy to let go when I start feeling busy or
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed. But even though they're little things like my 20 minutes of exercise or whatever, like
Yep.
they have a huge effect on how I feel and how equipped I am for what's
Yep.
next. And so it can feel in the moment of the trade-off like, well, I really need that extra 20 minutes for a client or, finishing my day or whatever. But the cost, that I end up bearing, particularly because I think for me, it's easier to stay with my habit than to try to reclaim it. Once I fall off the wagon, it's harder to get back on it
Mm-hmm.
than to
Mm-hmm.
just stay on it. So the things that in the moment seem like, oh, it's just a small bit and I can live without that self-care. No,
Yeah.
like you got to hang on to that.
Yeah.
Like it's precious, I think.
And the reality is this, especially for my clientele, and you service mostly women as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're at a point where so many women are elevating their voice and their leadership and really at a whole different kind of level and using just muscles that they hadn't been before, it is extremely important that you're nurturing and taking care of yourself, because you literally cannot get out there and be the beacon of change that all of us is trying to do when you're tired, drained, and internally beat up, And so it is, I like the example of your small practices, because that is exactly what Sean Stevenson was saying. Those things that you do consistently, that when you look back, those were the winning days that you had. And so, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. So you have such a gift for language, and so I love everything you're saying around the personal elevation. And I'd love for you to just sort of take that in any direction you want to. But I think there are so many women who are not recognized for their true gifts, whether that's due to them playing small or they're in an environment with sort of built-in discrimination of whatever kind. Um, it's hard to just be a woman, show up and shine, and have the rest of the world be like, yeah, great, you've got it. So I'd love it if you could talk a little bit about what it is that you do that helps women with this personal elevation, and maybe just remind us again why this is so freaking important for us to do it, why we each have to tackle it.
And I'm going to do a comma instead of a period after what you just said. And there are a lot of women who know how to do things so effortlessly that they don't think that it demands being recognized in that way.
Yeah.
You do it like the back of your hand, and you assume that can't everyone do this, and shouldn't it be, will someone compensate me at the highest level for this? We equate the amount of time or something like that. And not really
the struggle. You gotta work really hard, and if you haven't worked really hard, then it wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah. And so it's interesting when you say that, because so many people, and this is a large percentage of women, who just cannot tell you the unique value that they add to any situation. They just simply can't. They simply cannot, unapologetically and effortlessly tell you what it is that separates or differentiates them from their colleagues on their team, or from their competitor who has another business in their city, or, from anyone. They just have not taken the time. And when you talk about just simply getting to the next level, it really does require you to do the work on you. it requires you to be able to walk into a situation and say, this is what I have to offer. This is why you need to pay attention. This is what the value you're going to do if you engage with me. And so a lot of times it's simply starting there. It's helping people recognize everything in totality that they have to bring, recognizing that the failures that they've had are just as significant as the successes they have, learning how to articulate and tell their story in a compelling way. Because as you know, when you're a business owner, storytelling is everything. And so that is a game changer, whether you're selling someone a new car, that's a game changer, whether you're selling someone new software. And so what we have to learn how to do is put in the time on ourselves. We put it in on our other things, but we don't put it in on ourselves to be able to say that I'm worthy enough to spend the time so that I can go out here and do what I need to do to shine a light on me. And so the idea is, like Marianne said, you're not here to play small, and it's your responsibility. But one of the things that I truly believe is when you do play small, there are people who need you who can't access you.
Yeah.
I never heard of you, and it really is, that's when we talk about getting into your gifts and one of the things and the problems of not showing up the way that you need to show up. And so adjust that to me, like I always talk to my kids about low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is you need to be able to sell yourself. Like, I mean, come on, and you start looking and watching decades that are going and people are still struggling. There's no reason that you should be 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and not be able to walk into a conversation confidently and say, this is what I do, here's why I am who I am, here's my story, here's what got me here, and here's why you need me on your team. Because until you're able to do that, you're not going to be compensated at that level. You're not going to attract the kind of opportunities that you're worthy of attracting.
Yeah, yeah. And so Jennifer, if people want to connect with you further and receive some of your support, can you tell us a little bit about how they can do that through a call with you?
Absolutely. So my website is my name, Jennifer Ransaw Smith. But because some people are not really clear on Ransaw, it's also personalelevation.com. Take you to the same thing. I have a brand clarity call under there, under how we work together or working with me. And under the brand clarity call, it's just an opportunity for us to look and get clear, especially for a lot of entrepreneurs. They're multi-passionate. They are, I do a little this, I do a little that, I dibble and dabble. Completely fine to be able to do that, but you also want to be the person that's recognized for doing something. So if I'm looking for someone who's going to be delivering on a certain topic, that your name comes up. And I'm not like, I know that she bakes, and I know that she's a florist, and I know that she does this, but we're looking for a speaker, So what we want to be able to do is help you shape your story. Because like Marcy said, this is a fact. If you don't learn how to effectively tell your story, you're probably not going to like what other people come up with. And you're going to be frustrated, oh my God, you didn't realize that I did this and this. It's your job to tell your story so effectively that if you had pods of people out, your circle of influence, people over here at the PTA, people over here in the business office, people at BWN and all these other things, you want them to say the exact same thing about you. If you're looking for X and you want this, and this is the results that you want, you have to call my girl Marcy. Like, that's what you want. And if you're not getting that, then the problem is not on the end, the problem is at the beginning with you. And it's with you not learning how to effectively articulate that.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I think you've gotten a clear sense of Jennifer's passion and love and depth of expertise for what she does. So if you'd like to explore how to elevate your brand, starting from the inside and moving outward, I encourage you to get in touch with her, and I'll share that link in the comment section below after our call is done. And Jennifer, I just want to thank you so much for being with us on the call today. I love receiving a dose of your energy and passion. It's always fun for me.
Marcy.
Yeah, and just so many brilliant ideas shared today. So I really appreciate you not only being with us today, but really giving your gifts to the world and helping to elevate a ton of women through sharing your gifts with the world.
And you as well, Marcy. I appreciate you.
Great.
And I'm going to do a toast to us, because here's to another decade.
Yay! Yes, bring it on. All right, wonderful. Well, thanks everybody. And please join me next week. I'll be talking to LaTanya Dewberry next week, and I'll share more about that later. All right, great. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye,
Bye.
Jennifer.